Hey folks, it's Deb from Queerstrology. I'm just popping on a few minutes early to make sure that the notifications have time to get out to everybody. We will possibly be having some special guests, so let's see how this goes. Now, I want to let you all know before we even really get into it, a couple of things, and I will be saying this a few times, but we will be uh, only polite, okay? So please be respectful. You can have your opinions about certain things. That is acceptable, but realize that they are your opinions and try not to throw insults at others during this, okay? Because we will be having special guests join us, and we don't want these folks to to be upset by what's going on here. We want to get some information. Now, just so you all know, I did get this information from the cast members, okay? So the only person that I did not get all of the information from yet is Vanessa. And other than that, everybody's chart is fairly and pretty much accurate from the sources, okay? Now, a few of them may be joining us. How I'm going to do this is I'm going to talk about what these round natal charts even mean. Because some people are like, what does it mean? Like, okay, so we're going to explain the parts of the natal chart. And then after that, we will go through each of the 10 cast members of Ultimatum Queer Love, and we will discuss what the heck is in their charts, okay? So let's start out with explaining what a natal chart even is. All right, folks? So look at it this way. Here we go. This is a round chart. It's called a natal chart or a birth chart. And what it is representing, okay, is the part of the sky. It has different parts to it, and it's showing us the sky. So at the moment that you're born, it will take a snapshot. Now, we are more used to looking at something that looks kind of like this, right? You'll see, oh, sun, moon, Mercury, ascendant. We're used to seeing those kinds of things, but we might not necessarily know what it means, right? Well, as astrologers, we look at that round chart because it tells us all of this in that little nice compact round circle. It actually also tells us all of this, okay? So that's why we use it. It's just harder to read because it's just little tiny symbols and things like that we're coming from, okay? So let's talk about this. Now, if you all have seen this, everybody, you have all 12 signs in your chart, okay? So I'm actually reading the charts of the cast today, but I do readings. You can please check the link in my bio, all right? So I'm just starting out now showing you how to read a chart, and then we're going to read every single cast member in alphabetical order, or if they pop in, we'll read theirs, okay? So out here on this edge, all 12 signs. It's 360 degrees around, okay? 12 signs go into that, 30 degrees each, okay? These represent the constellations in the sky, okay? That's why we talk about the signs along the ecliptic. That is what we are talking about. The reason why there's 12, even though there's kind of like about 15 different constellations along the ecliptic, is they're representing a part of time, okay? A season, if you will, a 30-day season, better known as how much time the sun stays in each constellation. Because in actuality, it only is in Aries for 5 days and in Virgo for 45 days, right? So this is a time period. It's so we know how to navigate. It's so we know when to plant crops. That's where it's come from, okay? Now, when we look at these round charts, it's not just these signs, right? There's these lines in here, okay? And in the middle, if you know the time of birth, there's, again, only one chart that I don't have this information for. But to explain to you what this means, this right here in the center, these are houses, okay? And these lines that are radiating out from there, those are the little slices of pie for that house, okay? You can see the first slice, the second slice, so on, all right? Now, what these are, this is a part of your life, kind of the stage of where something will take place, okay? Now, these are your access points, and we'll be discussing them as well, but you can see them labeled there. Now, when we talk about the fact that, or I'm sorry, when we add, let's look at this, right? When we add the points, okay, placements, planets, whatever you want to call them, they're astral bodies. There's nodes, there's dust clouds, there's all sorts of things. There's thousands and thousands of them. Well, in this case, we're just talking about the biggest ones, the biggest astral bodies in our solar system, because we were born in this solar system. Those are going to have the most energy that affects us. Now, we figured out over centuries the different kinds of energies that these planets tend to have on one, depending on where they are in the sky or what constellation they're in. Okay, so you have the attitude, like what we talk about when we talk about signs or horoscope, like what you feel about the signs. That's this right here. Okay, then you have the houses, which is where something happens. And the planets, or these astral bodies, they bring a focus, okay, to a part of your life with the attitude of the sign that they're in. Okay? Now, there's one more thing that we're going to add on to this, and that is aspects. Okay? Now, aspects are really important in your natal chart. This is your individual, how your individual points or focus points, how they get along with each other. What's their relationship like? Is your communication, is your communication in a good kind of flow with your transformation? Like, what's the situation, right? Well, keep this in mind, because as we progress through, okay, we're going to get the synastry readings for each of the couples. Okay, we're going to do the original couples as well as the trial couples for all five. Okay, and that is going to be the aspects. Okay, I do read natal charts, folks. There's a link in my bio for that to book a reading with me. Okay, but today we're talking about these folks. Now I'm going to start out with in alphabetical order. That's the opposite. There we go. Aussie. Okay. So here's Aussie's natal chart, folks. All right. Now, Aussie, we can see, is right here. This is where we start everybody's round chart. Okay. Let me put Aussie's chart up on my screen here as well so I can make sure I can see it. All right. Now, here we can see that Aussie happens to be a Cancer rising. That makes sense, because the rising sign, thank you so much. The rising sign, this is your first impression. What you, like your first impression of things, how you approach things and what kind of attitude. And then also it talks about how first impressions of people of you. Okay, so it's not just a mask that you hear people say, it's your first impression of things and people's first impression of you. So for Aussie, there's a lot of care, there's nurturing involved, a lot of in-depth emotional capacity, right? Also, they can tend to be emotionally manipulative, but they're also not very good at setting boundaries, right? So there's always double edges to every part of astrology, okay? And it's a progression of things. And while it's not linear, like you're not like, well, Aussie's in the 8th house at this point, and they're like, we don't know, because it's more like a sounding board, okay? So this sounding board is going in all different times. You can be in the 12th house of part of your life in how you ride a bike, but only in the 1st house on how you play the guitar. Does that make sense? So for Aussie, overall, the big 3 that we want to talk about, and then we'll kind of walk through the chart a little bit, and then we'll move on to the next one a little bit as we go. And if we do have anybody that happens to pop in, we will read their chart to them. So that should be fun, yeah? All right, so for Aussie, the big 3 that we want to talk about is Sun is in Gemini, okay? The moon is in Scorpio. This is a water moon. Scorpios are very secretive about their emotions, right? They're the emotional investigator. Geminis are the storytellers, air sign, intelligence. They're always learning. And right here, the Cancer, like I said, another water, so more emotion. Now, we saw in the show that Aussie had some moments where they like needed a minute. That's indicated here because air signs want to be fair in their intelligence. They want to have information, and when they feel like they don't have time to process something, it can be very difficult for them. So that makes sense. Now, something I also, I also do chart readings. Yes, there's a link in my bio. It's my link tree. And there's different kinds of services I provide, but if you're looking for the natal chart reading, yes, I do those as well. Okay. So here for Aussie, no, Zeph, I'm reading the cast right now. Okay. So the other two I really want to talk about, actually, other three I want to talk about. A lot of things in compatibility. It has to do with your Mercury, which is represented by communication, by your Venus, which is your vulnerability or surrendering energy. And then there's Mars, which is your dominant energy. And so hang on for a second here. Okay. There we go. Sorry. Uh, so, and Mars, which is their top energy or what they want to be dominant over. These are important things to look at as an individual person before we even get to talking about how people are compatible, right? Now, there's 4 more episodes being dropped at midnight tonight, okay? And then after tomorrow, I have 2 more natal charts to post, and then we will start posting these synastry charts for the trial partners from the first 3 weeks and see what we have to look at, and then we'll go from there. All right. Now let's look at this and let's go back to what we were talking about with Mercury, which is in Gemini. Mercury is the native ruler of Gemini and Virgo, which this is pretty much the majority of the cast. 5 members of the cast have the sun is ruled by some one of the signs of Mercury, either Gemini or Virgo. Okay. Now, what's the difference? Okay. There's only 2 planets, Mercury and Venus, in modern astrology that rule 2 different signs. And normally people try to give it a gender, which that's not how we do it here at Queerstrology, right? So what we talk about is external and internal. Now, Geminis are the external communicators. We all know this. If you know a Gemini, you know, right? Virgos are internal communicators. They're very hard on themselves and they're critical, not just to other people, but also to themselves. Okay. Now let's talk about the other one really quick and just get it out of the way, which is Venus. Okay. Now Venus, that's what it looks like right here. Okay. And for Aussie, it happens to be in Taurus. Okay. Luxury. Aussie wants to feel spoiled, safe, secure in order to be vulnerable. That's what that indicates. Okay. And it happens to be in a social kind of way. All right. So if you're looking at it being like how you're interacting socially and wanting to feel safe and secure in that, that's how Aussie feels. Now you can see that it's actually in their 10th house of work and achievement. They'll feel like they've achieved something. Now look what's right next to it, Mars. Mars is what Aussie would like to be there. Aussie's pronouns are Aussie, by the way, folks. So Aussie would also like to have security, value, and possession of Aussie's achievements. My apologies. I apologize. So the thing there is when you have Venus and Mars, a lot of people ask me this, right? They're like, what does it mean if I got Venus and Mars right in the same sign and even in the same house, like in this case, in the house of achievement? All right. Well, what does that mean? That means that you have some avenues of that you really want to be in control of. And that's why it's hard for you to be vulnerable, right? But that you can, if somebody can give you can meet your drive. That's usually what it means. Your vulnerability relies on people being able to meet your drive if you have these really close together or in conjunction. Blended energy, okay? That's what those aspects are. Now, let's talk about how when we're talking about compatibility in general, how I was just referencing that as a conjunction, that's something we call an aspect, okay? So an aspect there's 5 major ones that we talk about. Conjunction, which is not visible by a line, okay? It is simply about it being within 10 degrees of each other, any 2 astral bodies, okay? Now, if they're sextile, that's 60 degrees and it's a purple line, that's cooperative energy, Okay. The red line is square. That could indicate conflict. That's not necessarily bad, and we'll explain as we go through. Okay. If you have a trine, that's the green line. Okay. That is good flow. They have a good baseline together because they're in the same element. All right. And then we also have this one right here, which is one of my favorites, which is opposition. That's 180 degrees across from each other, and that has push and pull energy. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to the next one. We'll really read in depth for anybody who happens to pop in, but let's talk about the next chart. Okay, because I believe Mal's next. Okay. Oh no, Lexi's next. That's right, because we're alphabetical order. So, hey. So here we are. This is Lexi's chart. Let's first talk about Lexi's big three. Okay. And her big three, sorry, are Sun in Capricorn, right here. Okay. Our moon, where's her moon? Right here. In Cancer. Okay. And then Gemini rising. Now, when I spoke to Lexi, actually, we originally thought that she had had a different moon than that. Co-star will trick you all, so make sure that you all, not necessarily trust co-star, or make sure that on your co-star settings, you go into your profile, into your settings, and change the housing system to Placidius. Okay. Western style tropical Placidius is what's most commonly used by astrologers, especially if you happen to live here in the Western hemisphere, if you will. Okay. So that being said, now we know what the situation is, but look at this. I'm just going to point this out, and this is something I haven't mentioned yet. But with aspects, when you have three or more of them involved, you get some things called patterns. Now, you may have heard the term stellium, okay? A stellium is a pattern because it involves three or more of the points, and they're aspected, okay? So a conjunction, if there's three or more involved in a conjunction, which actually in this case is usually within 30 degrees of each other, because stelliums are three or more placements in a single house or a single sign, okay? So if that's the case, then that means that you have an extra focus either from the sign energy or the house's energy, okay? And and here we have a stellium in Capricorn, okay? But really, if you can see here, there's also an eighth house stellium, okay? And there's even a couple more, but they're over here in the ninth house. This is actually in Aquarius, okay? So her Uranus is in Aquarius, okay? But here is Neptune, Jupiter, Mercury, and the Sun. So let me explain what that means, okay? Capricorn, we kind of know the Capricorn energy, right? They're about effectiveness. They're about getting the job done, but they're the initiators of structure, okay? So having the Sun there means ego, okay? Ego is involved. And then we also have Mercury, which its focus is about communication. Jupiter is one of the social planets about expansion, okay? Neptune is about intuition and dreams. And all four of those are in the eighth house. The eighth house is the house of taboo, rebirth, transformation, death, sex, right? So this person is very sensual in their ambition. Now, I mean, it even shows, if you see here, Capricorn, okay, is the ruler of the eighth house, which is that house I was just talking about, okay? So that indicates that this person may be very, very sexual in their ambition and really good at it. Now, the other pattern I wanted to point out is this mystic rectangle right here. That's a super talent. Okay. Now, what's interesting about it is that you have these trine points, right? Which means they're in the same element, but then you have these sextile points, which are working together. So all these work together to give you a secret kind of power, if you will. And hers is about the results socially, okay? Her intuition and dreams, or it might be her rebellion, actually. And then her drive, which her drive, Mars in Virgo. I'm going to explain more about that in a second, okay? And then her moon or emotions. So, how you might read her. Let's do a quick big six read for Lexi. Okay. So here we are. We have the sun in Capricorn, like I said, as a fellow Capricorn, right? Uh, we, especially a December Capricorn at that, we are about efficiency and effectiveness. That's where her ego is. Okay. And you can even see that in the show. She's she's got her stuff together and she wants somebody else to also have their stuff together. Right. Now, ascendant is in Gemini, which means she comes off as a great storyteller. Weren't we all into it? Right? So that's a great indication that she's quite the storyteller. And she comes off of that. That's her in first impression. She's very social, right? Because Capricorns can come off kind of cold, but she doesn't come off like that. I mean, you like your first impressions of her. I mean, I don't want to speak for everybody, but that was my first impression. I didn't feel like that, right? Now, what's interesting is she has an opposite moon to her sun sign. Normally, that can indicate that somebody's born on a full moon. However, they aren't exactly 180 degrees across, so she was not born on a full moon, okay? But she is a Cancer moon. Now, Cancer moons they're Cancer's ruled by the moon. So there's really deep emotional capacity here, okay? So there's some emotion, which is interesting for a Capricorn, because I don't need to remind you all possibly, but goats don't have tear ducts. So Capricorns aren't necessarily known for their emotion. Now, keep this in mind when you are looking at other individuals' charts as it goes on, right? There you go. So were you born on a full moon, Lissa? I'm curious now. And somebody asked, what does the opposition of Saturn and Mars mean? Right here. Okay. These are the oppositions of her rectangle. Push and pull energy is an opposition. Okay. So you take the energy of the oppositions, put that in the center. We have conjunctions blended, sextiles cooperative, squares conflict, trine is flow, and opposition is push and pull. Okay. Then you take the focus points. So results versus drive. Her results versus drive. They're pushing and pulling each other. So the more she achieves in her results, the more she'll achieve in her drive, and back and forth. Okay? So that's kind of interesting, right? Now let's look at her other out of the big six. Okay, those were her big three. Okay, we talked about the moon, the sun, and her rising. Let's talk about the other three. Mercury is right here, also in Capricorn. Again, right on top of her sun almost, or maybe right on top of Jupiter. So through her communication, she is going to expand who she is because it's right next to Jupiter, but she's going to be very efficient to the point. This could have been an email. That's her kind of energy when it comes to communication. That's going to be important when we look at who she's trying to match with. Communication is going to need to be efficient for her, okay? Now we look at Venus, and her Venus happens to be in Sagittarius. Now, when I tell you folks, this is where the Voldemort part comes from, this is what I'm talking about. Not her, but her talking about her feelings towards Vanessa at that moment. That was her Venus in Sagittarius coming out. There is experience. That is what drives a Sagittarius, okay? So being vulnerable to somebody who has experience, that's valuable. They have educated experience. So once Vanessa exposed that her experience wasn't necessarily anything but just kind of for fun, that was a red flag for Lexi, if that makes sense. Because for her, she's not going to be able to be vulnerable to somebody who's not genuine in their experience. This is her interpretation, I'm saying. I also can't put words in her mouth, but that's what I see in her chart. Okay? Now, if we look here, this is her Mars. All right? Her Mars is in Virgo in the 5th house of creativity, which means she's very driven on the detail base, okay, because she knows the details. She's very driven to be creative and pleasureful at what she does. So we know that she likes to make money. She's got this moon. Her emotions are in the third house of value and possession. I didn't even mention that a moment ago. So she's going to do very well for herself. She already is, I believe. And that's the indicator of this. And it's just something to keep in mind as we move through. All right. Well, let's move on to the next one here. Let's move on to, I believe Mal is next. Because I'm going alphabetical order until if anybody pops in, we'll go to them. Okay. Pardon me for a minute. A lot of talking. All right. Okay. So here's Mal's chart, folks. Now, Mal, her and they, she, they are Mal's pronouns. So they are a sun up here. See where the sun is? And this is an Virgo. All right. And then right here we have rising in Scorpio. And right here we have a Capricorn moon. Okay. Now, as a big three, and when we're discussing the big three in general, what do we think about that? Well, Virgos, their ego in the ninth house of experience, travel, education philosophies. Okay. And there's a stellium there. Remember, I can't. Yeah, I want to say something, but I can't. I'm like, oh, remember? Okay. And I'm trying not to do too spoily either, but it's hard because there's like certain things I want to talk about. But we'll talk about some of these comparisons. I'm going to do the synastry of the trial partners and the original partners, both. Okay. Carol, I actually have their permission because I asked them directly, but thank you so much. Oh, man. So, thank you, Casey. I actually. So, I do have moderator, folks. Please be kind, especially if any of the cast comes in. You need to, you know, it's okay. It happens. I get it. People worry about the ethical part of it. I'm not actually giving out their exact birth information. I don't want to do that. And I'm only doing the ascendant as we're talking right now because I don't feel comfortable even posting about just the ascendant. Talking about it in general is okay, but I don't know. Mal's awesome, by the way. You could see this and be intimidated by that, especially Scorpio risings tend to have that kind of feel to them, right? Because again, that rising sign is your first impression. And Scorpios are kind of the people that you feel like you don't know anything about, but they know everything about you. And their approach to things is very want to be enlightened about things. So it's very interesting. Now, up here, like I was saying, is because this is like the house of enlightenment, so to speak, where they want to learn things, they want to experience things. And besides the fact that there's a Capricorn moon, which, like I said, goats don't have tear ducts. So Capricorn moons are the ones that are upset. They go in the bathroom, they're like, get your shit together. And then you move on with your life. Sassy Edwards, check out the link in my profile for all my services, okay, including the readings. So what's interesting, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Thank you, Susie. Susie's on it there. So, so right here, we're talking about, again, almost 180 degrees, but not quite because this is it's in Virgo. So when it comes to the sun and the ego, it's about experience and what's in the details because it's got that Virgo energy, right? Virgo wants to know the details. They are an earth sign. You heard Mal talk about it, okay? So you have the earth, right? And there's 3 modes. So I figured that since we just talked about Lexi, now we'll talk about Mal because she was telling Lexi about this. But she's like, no. Capricorns and Virgos are made for each other. They're kind of soulmates. Well, what Mal's talking about is kind of true in the sense that you are of the same element. Again, that's similar to a trine, okay? It means you could have a really good flow because your ego, because that's what the sun represents, your ego's baseline comes from structure, okay? But the three modes are cardinal, fixed, and mutable. Okay? So Capricorns are the cardinal earth sign. That means they initiate the structure. Okay? Cardinal signs start the seasons. Like Capricorn starts winter, Aries starts spring, Cancer is summer, Libra is fall. Okay? They're the initiators, at the starter of a new season, if you will. Okay? Now, the next one is fixed. And they go in order like this. Let me just show you really quick so you know where I'm at, okay? So here's what I'm talking about. Cardinal, fixed, mutable. Cardinal, fixed, mutable. Cardinal, fixed, mutable. Cardinal, fixed, mutable. Earth, air, water, fire. Earth, air, water, fire. Earth, air, water, fire. See how they go around like that? So when you notice that, you can kind of, and this moves. This, every 2 hours changes the sign. It takes 2 hours to travel through the sign. This right here, the ascendant or your rising sign, this indicates what constellation, in this case it was Scorpio, was on the eastern horizon at the moment that you were born. And it starts your entire chart. So while we talk about sun signs and the ruler of that particular, like in this case, it would be Mercury because of Virgo. That's not actually the planet that rules Mal. The planet that rules Mal is Pluto, the planet of transformation, because Scorpio is their rising sign. So if you happen to know the time that you were born, you can figure out what your rising sign is, and whatever planet rules that sign, that's the planet that rules. So as an example, I'm a Sagittarius rising, therefore Jupiter rules my chart. Okay? Now, let's talk about Mal's other three. So let's wrap up the big six for Mal. Okay? Now, what we have right here, we have Mercury. Where did Mercury go? There it is. It can't be too far from the sun, right? So right here, we have Mercury in Leo. So there's some fire communication there, right? And it's about adoration. Probably liking to give it, especially when it comes to different kinds of education, like encouraging you to educate them, okay? Now, Venus happens to be right here and in Cancer, okay? So Cancer in Venus means in order for Mal to surrender, she needs somebody to have deep emotional capacity. Anyway, it's hard. It's hard. I'm just like, and then we look for the Mars. Where's Mars? Right here. Okay. And Mars is also in Leo. Okay. Which means Mal is driven to gain adoration. Now, when we talk about Leos, and we will really talk about Leos when we get to Violi, but who has there's a few Leo stellium folks in the cast, but Leos get a misnomer for their for arrogance, but they are ruled by the sun. Okay, and it does have to do with ego, but egos for Leos, it has to do, if you hurt their ego, they may forgive you, but they will never forget. Never, trust me. And when it comes to adoration, right, they are looking for you to notice something that they have done, not just for nothing, okay, but that they put the right thing together for the right occasion, or things like that. Their creativity, the way they are allowing you to enjoy something more. That's what they want to be known for. They're what they've done. They're noticing you, and you give them adoration for that. And then honestly, they're loyal. So that's the kind of like drive that Mal will have. And it happens to go again about having experience. So experiencing different kinds of adoration, knowing what she wants and looking for that. Okay? All right. So now let's go over to Mildred's chart. Okay. Now, I don't know, is Mildred in here or no? I didn't see if she popped in yet or not. Okay. So we might go back to Mildred's if Mildred pops in, or maybe I can actually hold on. I don't know. No, not in here yet. Okay. So okay, here we go. So right here, this is Mildred's chart. Okay, let's talk about Mildred's big three. Okay, first of all, we have the sun, which is right here, and that is Virgo that's in, okay? And then straight across 180 degrees, the rising sign is Pisces, okay? And then down here we have the moon in Gemini. Okay, so ego is about the details, okay? They're striving for perfection, and especially in their relationships. Yes, there's 3 Virgos on the show, and 2 Geminis, and 2 Aquarians for that matter. All right. Oh, hey, Sam's here. We can go to Sam's chart now since Sam is here, and then we'll go back to Mildred. Okay. Yeah, Yoli is a Leo. Whatever you've seen on the internet about Yoli being a Virgo is incorrect. Okay. So Sam, hi Sam. Sam, if you all do not know, make sure you go over and follow Sam here on TikTok because they're new. They just started their TikTok here, and they do tarot, which of course I love. Right? As soon as Sam said that they were, she was like, I am like, this is a lot of stuff going on. I'm like, honey, I don't blame you. Like seriously, it's a lot. But I remember the first episode, you're like, I'm kind of into this astrology thing, and I'm like, star. I starred by Sam. So hi Sam. So I'm going to read Sam's chart to her, so she gets to have like a little free mini reading here, folks. So enjoy. Okay. So hi Sam. I know you weren't here at the very beginning when I start, but I'll give you a little mini about what's going on here. Okay. This right here, all the signs, because everybody has all 12 signs in your chart. These represent the constellations. Okay. These constellations that are in the sky. Now, this happens to be a snapshot of the time that you were born from the location that you were born. And in astrology, we're Earth-centric, okay? So your rising sign, it represents, and you were a Sagittarius rising as well, just like me, that represents the constellation that was on the eastern horizon at the moment that you were born. So therefore, that is what we start your chart with. So you were actually ruled by Jupiter, just like me. I don't think so, but let me check. If Sam can, I don't think so, not yet. Uh, I don't think so. I'm double checking if I can. No, it won't let me. But it's okay, you know. Thank you. That's that's sweet. So, so up here, I mean, maybe there's got to be a way. I wonder if I can. I'm just gonna try one more thing to see if I can. All right, it won't let me. Okay, so let's just get on. Yeah, I don't think you can either. I tried though. I tried. All right, so same as a Sag rising, like I was saying, and so you're ruled by the planet of Jupiter. Okay, so this Jupiter planet is what rules, but also, okay, it rules your entire chart, not just your first house. Now, what's interesting is, Sam, you have a lot of placements in the second house, which is about communication. So the first house, I mean, not, the second house, which is about value. I apologize. Your first house, folks, is about self. So having Sagittarius rule your house of self, speaking from personal experience, it means that you are pretty hard on yourself because you are always looking to educate yourself more, new philosophies, and based upon experiences. Okay, so it could be that Sam is one of those folks that likes to be able to have the experience before they, make a decision about something. It has to go through their self-experience filter first, if you will. Okay. Now, there's a whole ton. There's another Capricorn stellium here, folks. One of the tightest ones I've ever seen, to be frank. And we have Mars, the planet of drive, but also your top energy, what you want to be in control of. Okay. And Capricorn Mars, folks, not the ones to mess with. Again, speaking from my own personal experience. All right. We have the receipts to back it up. Let's just put it that way. But you also have, and that Mars is right here in Capricorn, but it's still in the first house. So this is self-driven. All right. That is amazing. You have this self-driven drive. I also have the Capricorn Mars in the first house. It's good stuff, man. So you're going to be just fine. Now, the planets that you have in this Capricorn stellium also include Uranus, which is one of the generational planets. Okay, its focus is about rebellion. Okay, or where you want to buck the system. And since the second house, which Capricorn is ruling your second house, bringing that initiation of structure to the things that you value and your possessions. Okay, so that's what that's going to bring you. Now, these are the focus points that you have in there. So you have that drive, what you want to be in control of. You have Uranus, your rebellion, okay, the things that you want to rebel against, and you will be very efficient and effective at it because that's Capricorn's energy. Neptune is intuition and dreams, okay? So again, you're going to be able to use your intuition and your dreams in order to achieve things that you want, right? On top of that, you also have Mercury here. Mercury, that's this little one right here, and that one is communication. So again, efficient and effective communication that's high in value and helps you to gain, okay? You're looking for security through this. Now, we also have Saturn, okay, which is right there, but this is the little glyph for it. Saturn is the planet of restriction, but also results. So it could be that sometimes you're too focused on the achievement portion of it, and sometimes you may need to be restricted in order to get the results that you're looking for. The cat wants out. Can you hear her? The other placement that you have here is Venus, okay? And I can let the cat out while I'm telling you about it. So having Venus in Capricorn, it is your bottom energy, or what you might like to, what you might need to surrender to or be vulnerable to. So you need somebody who has some sort of ambition. And that could be why you were the one that gave the ultimatum. Because in order for you to feel, you want to feel secure, safe, loved, focused on, and that you are the main project, if you will. So that's kind of what that indicates. Now, what's interesting is once we move to the third house here, we go to the cusp of the first house to see what sign rules that house. Aquarius rules your third house of communication, okay? And it has the sun, your ego in there. Now, as an Aquarian, they're the aliens of the group, right? They're the island of misfit toys. So when it comes to how you are communicating, it's different. It's not typical how normal people communicate in society, or what normal people would think. What's normal anyway, right? But it's about adopting that and owning your differentness, that you don't need to find other people that are different like you, but that they're different and appreciate you, if that makes sense. That's what you're looking for. More humanitarian, because that's Aquarians are the humanitarians of the group, of all the zodiacs. Now, your fourth house, or your house of home, is ruled by Pisces. Okay, so your roots are based in intuition and dreams. So in the past, you've been able to use your intuition and dreams in order to feel safer at home. Okay, but in actuality, now your job is up here, where we're going for details. Okay, which I'll talk more about that when we get up to the 10th house. But your MC, or medium coli, top of the sky, midhaven, whatever you want to call it, your ambition point. Okay, so this is your past, your home life, your domestic life. You like to be a little bit intuitive. As an example, you don't necessarily need to harbor or bother your partner at all. Independence is actually quite okay for you, because you mentally have an intuitive connection with people at your home life. That's what you would like, okay? Now, when we look to see what rules your fifth house, we have Aries. So Aries rules your creativity and pleasure, for that matter, and you have the moon there. Now, moon, your emotions. So Aries moons, like most fire moons, right? Speaking as a Sagittarius moon, they are fiery. Now, Aries, more than even the others, are very quick to act, okay? Because they're like, let's just find out. So if you are emotionally, if you can get some emotional pleasure or some emotional creativity from it, you're going to try it just to see. You may not ever do it again, but you want to try it just to see, just to know that you tried it. If you screw up a couple times, oh well. It's just kind of like, oh well, at least I tried it. Now, when it comes to the cusp of the sixth house here, it looks like we have Taurus ruling your 6th house. Now, this is the house of routines, okay, or your daily activities. So for you, Taurus is slow and steady wins the race. You're like, yeah, I know how to get this stuff done, and you'll get it done. It may take you longer than some other people, but you don't really care because you know what kind of value you have and what possessions you have, and you'll take care of it when you need to. All right. Now, when we look at the 7th, ooh, right here, Gemini. Well, a couple of things I want to point out. Gemini is an air sign. Okay, folks? Aussie is a Gemini, so is Xander. Okay? So, if that's the case, I want to throw that in. So is Aquarius. So are Libras. There's no Libras on the show. 2 Aquarians, Sam and Tiff. Okay? Now, Gemini, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because 7th is the house of relationships. Okay? So anybody who has air signs or placements around the 7th house is usually not cis in some sort of way. It doesn't mean they're gender necessarily, but it could mean that they are not heterosexual, they're pan, bi, any of those things, right? And that's just because air signs are just about flowing. They don't want to be nailed down to anything in particular. Okay, so that's kind of the energy that you bring. Now, for you, it's a good story, okay? And it's a good story to have Gemini ruling it because it is the storyteller. So you like a storybook kind of connection, but it also means that you get bored very easily. So when that story gets boring, you may want to cut and run. But hey, let's be real. It sounds like you've progressed a bit from that because you gave the ultimatum. Now, what's interesting is that you have Jupiter in this house, in your 7th house of relationships. By the way, the 7th house of relationships is not just romantic, it's any long-term ones, okay? Any long-term relationships at all, work, family, friends, any of that, okay? Now, that being said, this Jupiter, while in this house, is under the sign of Cancer, which means deep emotional capacity is how you will expand. So the more emotions that you can express or learn from, the more you will expand in your relationships and from your relationships. Because air signs like to mimic in order to decide whether or not they want to pick up something, right? They're like, I like that. It works for me. All right. So, and you can't get mad at them for it. That's what they're good at. So anyway, Cancer rules the 8th house. So this is the house of segs. It's also like the house of taboo, tarot things like that. Rebirth, transformation, okay? So having Cancer rule, that means a deep emotional transformation throughout your life. It's kind of how you will grow and transition as a person through your emotional capacity, okay? Now here we have Leo, which is ruling your 9th house of travel, experience, things like that. So you want to be adored for your kind of education and your philosophies. Again, the Leo energy it is about ego because it's ruled by the sun, but ego is about not getting your ego hurt. It's more about adoration for something. So you want adoration for your experiences. That's what you'll look for, okay? That's what that indicates. Now here we are at the MC, which I was mentioning earlier. MC stands for medium coli, which means top of the sky, okay? Because again, this is the sky that we just snapshotted. Here's constellations, there's the little planets and stuff, right? What relationships we have. So this is your highest point of achievement. Having a Virgo midheaven, again, I also have a Virgo midheaven. It means that last lifetime we got to do van life. This lifetime we got to get stuff done. We may be a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to our work, okay? So just a little advice from one Virgo MC to another. You don't have to edit the video that many times, okay? Just throw it up there. Sorry, excuse me, folks. So, so then when we discussed the fact that Virgo rules the entire 10th house there, right? But now we have Libra, and Libra is ruling the 11th house. This is the other air sign here. Now, Libra is about balance, okay? They're looking for fairness. That's why it's difficult for them to make a decision because they want to make sure they have all the information first. And that's where you can be socially speaking. Although Libras tend to be like the secretaries of any kind of social group they're in. uh, if they have this Libra placement, you're kind of like, you make sure that everybody is treated fairly in the group, that nobody has been left out. That's your kind of energy when it comes to social interactions or the kind of social groups that you hang out with. Now, when it comes to the 12th house, okay, you have Scorpio ruling your 12th house. And there's a few of you all that have this. Now, this is me as well, which is interesting, but I will say that having Scorpio rule your 12th house is very intuitive in a way, but it also can mean a bit of hidden enemy stuff. So, what I like to say here is that the fact that you have Pluto, which is actually the native ruler of Scorpio, means there's a lot of transformation through your intuition and your dreams. So you are an emotional investigator. You take that information. This is the Scorpio energy, okay? And you rummage through that and you take what you need in order to progress you through and to transform who you are intuitively. Okay? Now, I won't go over every single aspect that you have on here, but a couple of them let's talk about. I mean, we already kind of talked about the stellium. You have a lot of Capricorn energy, even though you have big placements in air. I mean, one, two, three, four, five, six. That's the most I've ever seen, actually, in the big planets in one sign. I have 6 planets in my first house, but they're split between Sag and Capricorn. So very interesting. Now that's a big energy, right? That conjunction is blended energy. So when you have any points that are within 10 degrees of each other, or if they happen to be within a stellium, it's whatever that energy is. So in your case, it's a Capricorn stellium with heavy instance on the second house. Okay. Excuse me, my goodness. These sextile lines, these are the purple ones, which are 60 degrees. That energy is cooperative. So if you take the focus of those points, you can see like your transformations cooperating with your ambition, as an example. Okay. Red is square, and it could be conflict. And this shows that, which one is that? Venus and your moon may have conflict, but it's probably because your Venus is looking for more value and your moon's like, oh, let's just try it. You know, so that could be what's going on there. And then we have trine, which is in the same element. So here you have the earth, some earth trining going on, some structure between your ambition and how you communicate and your intuition and dreams. And then the last of the 5 major aspects is push and pull of opposition. So this is opposition. It's the blue line here, 180 degrees across. And for you, that's your expansion or Jupiter, and it is push and pulling with Uranus. Okay? So I hope that helps. I hope that was helpful, Sam, because I know I was looking forward to reading your chart to you, because I feel like you're one of the people that's most into it. Y'all make sure you go over and follow Sam if you haven't already. Okay? No, yeah. And I'll be reading everybody's compatibility. I think first I'm going to be doing the not today, but after the other episodes drop tomorrow, I'll be doing the compatibility for the trial couples and the OG couple. So make sure you come back or stay tuned for that. All right. Okay, folks. Sam, thank you so much. And by all means, please stay if you would like, because I'll be reading other folks. But yeah. Okay, so we were discussing Mildred, folks. And Susie, thank you. I'm going to skip over Mildred and we're going to go to, now let's just read Mildred because I feel like Mildred might come in now. So I didn't want to read hers yet in case. So let's skip to people I know that will probably not come in. Shall we? Nah, she'll come in. Okay. Let's just do this, okay? I'm going to warn you all again to be kind. Okay? I understand that some of you have very strong reactions to some of the things that happened in the TV show. Me too. Okay. But we also have to understand that those are our personal interactions to something that we are being shown on a screen that is not real life, meaning there's editing, there's things that go on, there's things that sell shows and help sell shows. And sometimes, it doesn't mean that people have the best personalities, but it's not right for us to judge them, cast judgment, or diagnose them with any kind of disorders. Okay? So I think you'll catch my drift here. All right? So let's do it. Let's just do it. All right. So here's Vanessa. Like I said, she's the only one whose information I don't have. I don't have her rising sign time or her birth time. I do know when and where she was born, but I don't know what time exactly. So we don't know her rising. Okay. We do know that she is a Virgo sun, which you can see right here. Okay. And we can see that her moon is actually here in Pisces as well. All right. Now, those are out of her big three because we don't know her rising sign. What can I say just about that? Well, we already know that Pisces moons tend to have foot and mouth. Okay. What I mean is they have the best intentions about things, or they think they're being interesting, and they will say things that they think are funny or interesting because that's what their intuition tells them, and they're not necessarily. I've noticed that a lot with Pisces moons. Just saying. Now, when it comes to Virgo suns, everything in astrology is a double-edged sword, folks, right? So when it comes to any of the signs, whatever they're really good at, they can also be very bad at. That's not the right terminology. It's a double-edged sword, like in Virgos, for instance. Virgos are masters at the details and perfection, okay? If you want somebody to help you organize your house or get stuff together, that's who you call, okay? You call a Virgo. If they're on your team, you got it, okay? Virgos will come help you. And they will hack the dickens out of your life, like good, right? Now, if you get into a... Sorry, Susie. That's funny. Susie just said, I'm a Pisces moon and incredibly funny. I'm going to need a refund from that. I understand. So what's interesting about Virgo placements is that the other side of that is, while they can life hack you, they can also destroy your life if they're not in it with you. Okay? Like they'll help you, but they are not going to help you if things turn south. Okay? Now, that being said, all of us also have our own separate spiritual journeys and things that have happened to us, right? And now there's the stellium up here, and it happens to be between Leo and Virgo, okay? So it could be that it's within the same house, but we don't know. The thing is that now you're mixing some adoration, which here is how she communicates. She's looking for adoration with her communication. That's why she's always trying to get people to like laugh when she says things sometimes, right? Because she's like, look at me, give me adoration for my clever thought or whatever, right? And then on top of that is her Venus. So how she can surrender is somebody giving her adoration. So she's basically fishing for it in a certain kind of way. Because Virgos, they are internal communicators. They're very hard on themselves, okay? They are harder on themselves than any of you will ever be. So that's probably why Vanessa's just kind of doing her own thing right now, because people have been coming at her harshly. Not that she doesn't deserve some sort of understanding from how she's acting, but that I don't think that that's helpful to just degrade somebody or to attack them. It's about a conversation of the fact that she's learning. Like, we don't know what her life was like. These things are acceptable to her group. They work for other people. It could be that, as somebody who's poly myself, she's poly and her mindset seems to bother people a little bit. And I'm not saying anybody or the show, and it has been sexy shaming, if you will, to people, but it can come off like that, because it's like, oh, like, and somebody being honest about how they're feeling can be unnerving for a lot of people. Speaking of somebody who also tends to have foot and mouth. So I'm not defending anything. I'm just saying, usually when something like that is going on, there's more to the story than that. And as humans, we all are going through something or have been through something. And so just, cast a little bit of understanding out there. try to be understanding to the fact that people are trying to get through, you know, they're just trying to do their thing. So, you know, people chose to be on this show, and she went for her role. Like, can you blame her? Whatever works for her. You know, we all have our own stuff. What if that was what she wanted to experience on the show? That's what she wanted to experience. If a Capricorn, as an example, feels as though, like she's Capricorn, if a Capricorn feels as though their time is being wasted, they don't like that. Hence how we got to the Voldemort comment. Because as soon as Lexi saw that, she was concerned that she knows she can set boundaries, but she was concerned about other folks and the boundaries that they may or may not be able to set. Now, that's not her responsibility, but that doesn't mean that she can't worry about it, right? Again, everybody has their own thing. So, that being said, we also want to talk about the fact that she has a Virgo in Mars. This is a very direct placement and a very critical placement, okay? Again, they're very critical on themselves, so they don't necessarily understand the difference between when they click from them to somebody else, and it can come off as very, you know? Again, not saying it's okay, not saying that there's certain placements that are allowed to do things like that, because no. Be responsible, respectful to other people in general, no matter what your sign is. Hello, okay? You might have to do it a different kind of way. And I'm also for people being like, hey, look, we're all a little bit crazy. Find somebody who matches your crazy. So if you personally didn't get along with Vanessa and the show, or you feel like you wouldn't have, you don't actually know that because you weren't there. But that's okay. You're allowed to have that opinion, and I can see how she could rub people the wrong way because Virgo placements are harsh and can be harsh placements. And there's also a Capricorn stellium, maybe, possibly. Actually, that Saturn might be in Aquarius. But still a very stern kind of productive kind of lookout, okay? And then this psychic moon that can just, all right? What can I say? So let's talk about Xander, all right? Xander, are you in here by chance? Just before I start? Okay. All right. So here is Xander's chart, and we can talk about Xander's big three. Okay, let's talk about Xander's big three first. And that is right here. We have that they're an Aquarius. They're an Aquarius rising. Okay. They have a Gemini sun and a Cancer moon. Okay. So we've seen a few Cancer moons on here. All right. Almost a mystic rectangle, not quite. This chart looks the most similar to Lexi's, except for Lexi's is flipped the other way a little bit. But you can see that there's stelliums. Oh, no stellium there, close though. So we have this Gemini Mercury, right? And Gemini ego. So communication ruled by Mercury already. So very smooth communicator at home. They like a lot of communication at home and understanding. Same thing with their ego is involved with that. So if you're not telling them that they're doing a good job, they may not know and they may back away, okay? Because they're afraid. That's what that could indicate. Because when you have it in the sign and then at home, you're a very efficient communicator, and the need for that can be really extreme. So just heads up, you know, Xander. Now, having a Cancer moon, obviously, again, just like Lexi, having that Cancer moon is very in-depth emotional capacity. And for Xander, it happens to be in the 5th house of creativity. So like the yoga or the any kind of like therapy kind of things that somebody may want to do. This can play into that big time. Now look, we have another Leo stellium up here. Okay, so there's a few Leo stelliums within the charts. This one again is Jupiter for expansion. Okay, that's this one. That's kind of a weird looking 4. And then we have Mars, which is your drive or what you want to be in control of. And then you have Venus, which is what you want to surrender to or how you will surrender. Okay. Leo, as we know, its energy is about adoration. Excuse me. Now, adoration from Leo in which house? Because Leo is actually ruling the 7th house of relationships, right? So that being said, Leo ruling the seventh house means looking for adoration within the relationships, but the points are in the sixth house of service. So Xander would love to be of service by showing their vulnerabilities, being in charge of what they need to be in charge of, and expanding who they are as a person. Because that's what they're going to look for in their relationships, is those things for them. Like, it's a very unselfish kind of way of looking at it. Not, it might sound selfish, but it's actually them wanting to help other people in order to achieve the adoration. Not for nothing, right? Remember, Leos want the adoration, not for nothing. So that's just kind of what that indicates there. All right. Let's see here. We already did Vanessa. Let's talk about Tiff. Now, Tiff, you're not in here, are you, by chance? Okay. Like I said, if these folks come in, we'll talk about it, but we can go back to their chart. But here we have Tiff, as I said, and their big three are as follows. This is one of the busiest charts I've seen, by the way. It's very busy, lots of aspects going on, okay? There is a mystic rectangle in there as well. So they happen to be an Aquarius sun, you can see that right here, a Pisces moon, all right, and a Virgo rising. Now, there's a lot of high placement Virgo and Gemini folks in this show, right? It's interesting. But another Capricorn stellium. Interesting, huh? So Capricorn stelliums and Leo stelliums also seem to be very high percentage of this group as well. So interesting. So as a Virgo rising, this is the appearance that somebody may have. They're a little nitpicky about certain things because Aquarians, as we know, and how I was talking about Sam, is that they're the aliens. They're not typical in most things, okay? But Virgos are they're quite typical and quite about the details. They want things to be perfect. Now, something that's interesting is having the ego right here. The ego is in the fifth house of creativity. So how creative or creating is really closely tied with the kind of pleasure that Tiff can receive. Okay, because their ego is looking for something unique and interesting, as well as their Venus. So their surrendering energy, or what they need to be vulnerable, is somebody who's very unique and creative, right? So that kind of makes sense. Now, on top of that, it looks like they have a fifth house stellium as well as a fourth house stellium, even though this fifth house stellium runs into Capricorn, which has 4 points in it again. So Capricorn stellium would win. However, Mercury in Capricorn, again, efficient and effective communication. Okay? That's what this person wants. And they don't necessarily know how to do that because it's really close to Aquarius, and it's in the fifth house of creativity. So they might be a little creative with how they communicate instead of direct, even though it's Capricorn. Okay. Now let's talk about this Capricorn stellium really quick because it has Saturn, which is the native ruler of Capricorn. Remember, restriction as well as results. Okay. Uranus, rebellion, and Neptune, which is intuition and dreams, all in the fourth house under the sign of Capricorn, but with Sagittarius ruling it. What does that mean? Well, that means Tiff wants at home, her home life, their home life, their domestic life. They want experience, higher education, philosophies, spirituality, okay? But they also want to control how the flow is, what kind of results they get at home, and they want to dream of what it's going to be, okay? And if something doesn't match that, that might be difficult for them. As an example, their Mars is in Taurus. Now, Taurus is, and it's in the 8th house of taboo, sex, transformation. So they may be looking for high value and the different kind of possessions that they want to be in control of, especially when it has to do with areas of the taboo. Or they may be a little bit possessive when it comes to sex itself, which we may have seen a little bit of between Tiff and Mildred. So like you might have seen a little bit of that feeling of wanting to have a possession of some sort. It doesn't mean like own, but it kind of does in the sense of like emotional. Okay. I'm not trying to say it's toxic. I'm trying to like use that terminology without that sounding right. because Jupiter's also here too. And Jupiter's about expanding through security, but it's experience. So it could be that Tiff is a little bit stubborn until they get some experience in whatever it is. Okay? Which kind of makes sense. Aren't I mean, maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but I'm like that too. Right? Okay, let's talk about Ray. Ray, are you in here by chance? I don't think Ray was going to be able to come today, but I want to check for him. All right. So Ray almost has a grand sextile, which would be 5 of these or 6 points that are all sextile to each other. It's super rare. But let's talk about our big 3. Okay. So Ray has an Aries rising. Now, folks, why is that interesting? Because Ray is a big sports fanatic. Okay. So you can see that competition is a big thing, not to mention that Aries risings are native charts. What does that mean? Aries is the native ruler of the first house. It's the native first sign of astrology. So if you happen to be an Aries rising, then you tend to have a house that likes its baseline. It has a good flow on its baseline because it'll have mostly or usually the native ruler of the house ruling it. Okay? And it looks like for the most part, she does. Okay? Now, what's interesting here is as an Aries rising, she's also a Cancer sun. Okay? So being a Cancer sun or in opposition to Capricorn, okay? What does that mean? That means that this person's ego is about emotional capacity and wanting to make people happy, okay? Which, you know, it's tough, but having that Aries there, having that Aries rising there, this indicates that you might not want to wait. And you don't know what else is going to happen, so I don't know about that. And then add to it a Virgo moon, which means her emotions are about the details. So Ray, when she's looking for different emotional aspects of things, she thinks about the details of it. And she will go over it over and be hard on herself about it, as we even got to see a little bit in the show, right? Let's talk about her big 6 placement. So on top of that, we have Mercury, which is in Cancer as well. So a deep emotional capacity with their communication in the house of communication. So probably doing something in communication in general would be a good thing for Ray. Her Mars is in Gemini, so very duality in their drive, probably a little stop-start action, but they have value in it. They hold value in that drive, okay? And they like the good story behind the drive. They're a good hype man, if you will, okay? Venus is in Virgo in the 5th house. Freak! No, Venus Virgos tend to be a little freaky. Good for you. I mean, get it? And in the 5th house of creativity and pleasure. And under the sign of Virgo, details. Give me the details of how much pleasure I'm about to receive, you know? So that's kind of what that indicates. But cool looking chart. Ray has a really cool looking chart. Okay, let me see. Let's go ahead and go to Mildred. Because Mildred, she hasn't come in and I don't want to hold it too long. And then we'll talk about Yoli as well, okay? Because Yoli, y'all, is a Leo, not a Virgo, okay? But we'll get to that in a second. I was hoping she was going to be on today. Some of them said they would try to come in for the live, but it's hard. They are a little bit busy bees, especially starting tomorrow again. So, Mildred also has a really cool looking chart. She has like what looks like a diamond in there almost, huh? That's cool looking. So almost a grand sextile as well. But there's a little bit of a difference here. Pisces rising. So the oldest and wisest, as opposed to the youngest, right? That's the beginning. Sun, Virgo. Mildred is a Virgo sun. Pisces rising, Gemini moon in the 3rd house. This is Gemini's native house, and it's Jupiter right next to it. Remember when she was talking about communication and the need for really good communication? Well, these are both in the 3rd house of communication, her emotions and her expansion under Gemini. So talk to me. Tell me what's going on so we can move forward. That's Mildred's kind of energy there, right? Now, when we talk about Venus, Venus happens to be right here in Cancer in the 5th house of creativity. So now the emotional capacity, looking for big emotional capacity that is shown through their creativity. Okay, that's what she's going to be drawn to. Now, that being said, let's look at Mars, because Mars is right in the first house, the house of self, and it's in Aries, folks. Mars is the native ruler of Aries. So when we're talking about spicy, this is the definition of spicy is right there. Okay? So not putting up with much crap. That's what that means right there. So either deal with it or don't. That's your problem, you know? And then up here we have, what's interesting is the communication that is in opposition to the drive, because this is Libra. And so it wants to be very fair in their communication with relationships. Okay. So you can see her ego and her communication, while she's got this stuff going on down here, right, does want to be fair and is about the details of things. So that's very interesting. Now, let's go ahead and do Yoli, because poor little Yoli keeps getting called the Virgo on the old Google search, okay? But this is Yoli's chart. As I told you at the beginning, I have gotten the information from the cast themselves. The only person I've not gotten a birth time info from is Vanessa. So everybody else, I have their active and correct charts. Make sure, since this is the last chart I'll probably be discussing unless somebody pops in, make sure that you are following me here and on Instagram. Check out my YouTube if you would like. I may be doing short little videos where I'm reading everybody's charts, doing like little mini readings of their natal charts. The new episodes drop tonight at midnight, okay? There'll be 4 more episodes, so make sure you guys tune in and check that out. And then on here, on Queerstrology, I'll be posting the trial charts, the trial partner, their sustainability or their compatibility charts, okay? So I'm doing readings for the cast of the Ultimatum Queer Love. I'm on the last one right now, actually. So if you want a reading from me, there's a link on my page. It's my link tree, or you can email me queerstrology@gmail.com to set up an appointment. But if you go to my link tree, you can just book through there through PayPal. They have a payment plan as well, so make sure you check that out. Yeah, so you can go check that out and let me know, okay? That's the best way to do it. You look for your email. So if you have purchased something, make sure you look for the email from me. Check your junk mail, okay? Because one of my lives, I had 2 purchases, emailed them back and never heard back from them. So if you're on here, you happen to be on here, check your junk mail. I still want to do those for you. Because there's the little find your match thing on there that people like to do as well. That's where you answer 5 compatibility questions, and I send you back your perfect astrological match. So make sure you check that one out too. But if you get a reading with me, you get a PDF, 7-page or more PDF of your chart being broken down by all of the houses, placements, all that fun stuff, even the aspects. And then we do a video chat for 45 minutes where I walk you through your chart. Okay? All right. Sounds good. Sounds good, Susie. Thank you so much. Okay, so after all that, let's get that out of the way, shall we? Also, make sure if you're interested in learning more about how to read a natal chart, there's a series section on my page as well. There is how to read a synastry chart and how to read a natal chart. It's this new series thing that they're offering here on TikTok. So if y'all are interested in that, check that out as well. Okay. And just follow me in general. Lots of content about research and investigative astrology, looking to put facts behind what the heck we're looking at here. Okay. And without the gender binary. All right. So Yoli. Well, Yoli let's first of all say, has a grand trine. And this grand trine happens to be a fire grand trine. So some more spice here, folks. But let's talk about the fact that there is a Leo stellium down here. And why someone let's take as an example, Jennifer Lopez is a Leo, folks. What's the sign that she doesn't want any of her backup dancers to be? I'll wait. Anybody? Virgo. And y'all are out here telling Yoli that she's a Virgo. She's not having it, okay? She don't want it. And she doesn't get along with Virgos, as we happen to know. No. I mean, she gets along with one, at least, pretty well, right? So it's interesting because Yoli's an interesting one to look at because Yoli is the original partner of Mal. And she also had quite the conflict with Vanessa. And both Mal and Vanessa are born on the same day, different years, but same day. And so just seeing how they had a bit of a clash is interesting, even though those people have the same sun signs, right? That just goes to show you that charts can be so different. So, that being said, let's talk about Yoli's big six. We'll do the big three first. The sun, like I said, is right here under Leo. Again, adoration ruled by the sun, glowing presence about them, always good hair, as we know from Yoli as well. The rising sign happens to be over here, and Yoli is an Aries rising. Barely, but you know. So the initial action is she's also fiery to people that first meet her. In fact, even more so, like quick to act, even more so than her actual true self, which is a more loyal and obedient in a way, because they're obedient to the people that adore them. That's the way to put it, right? And I don't mean obedient in a bad way either. I mean they enjoy it, you know. So that being said, Moon is in Gemini. So another Gemini moon here, another duality of emotion. And this time it's in the second house. And her second house is ruled by Taurus, which is its native ruler for that house. Okay. So while she'll be seeking a lot of security and value, her emotions are going to tell a story. And whatever, she's going to look for a good story, a valuable story, in order to keep that close to her. Okay. Again, Virgo's love storybook anyway. I mean, Leo's. See, I just did it to her. Don't tell her, okay? Shh, don't tell her. All right. So, so now let's talk about the other three, okay? So we have Mercury, which is Leo, and Venus, which is Leo, and Mars, which is in Leo. And they are all, okay? Somebody, yeah, no, she's Leo. Sorry. She would be so upset if you told her that, Megs, just so you know. Like I said, communication, okay? Surrendering or vulnerability, ego, and drive what somebody wants to be in control of, okay? So in this case, it's about adoration and it's about in creativity and pleasure, okay? So if you aren't having fun, Yoli's not into it. They want to have a good time. They want somebody who's loyal to them. They can be loyal back. They want to be chosen, as they even, I believe, said, right? And isn't that what they said? Yeah, like needs to be chosen, but can fall in love easily, and that says that. Like, there's some of that, but can get bored easily as well. So that explains kind of a bit about that. Now, all right. So all that being said, we can hang for a minute, and I can answer some general questions about the cast and whatnot, um, or whatever you may want to know about their natal charts. Please make sure you stay tuned because I will be the last two charts will be posted tomorrow. That's Vanessa and Yoli, and then we will be moving into posting the synastry charts for the trial couples. Okay, those new episodes, they drop tonight at midnight. So make sure you stay on it and catch up. And then look out for a live possibly next week to where we will be talking about the synastry charts of these folks, at least the trial partners first, okay? So we will do a big old shindig at the end after everything, after we know more of what has happened, so that we can talk about all the goods and compare everybody's charts and all that fun stuff. So make sure you're following me here and on Instagram. You can subscribe here as well now, I guess. There's so many things going on. But also, yeah, make sure you're following all the cast. They are tagged in my posts. So if you want to learn more about them and check them out, go and do that, okay? And I want to let you all know that I appreciate you being here. I thank you so much because I would not be here if it wasn't for you. and trying to look out for our community. I know we all wanted to know these details. I got on it and I went to the sources directly and got it for you. All right. So make sure you check it out. All right. Now they're right. Their rising signs are not on the posts, and that's okay. We don't necessarily need to know them. If you were here, you might have heard what they were, but go and check that out and see if you're interested in knowing more about that and any of my services. Also, make sure you go hit up Sam for a tarot reading because how cool is that, right? Sam, thank you for dropping by. I'm sorry that more of the cast didn't come by today, but I'm sure in future ones we will get some people to stop in during those lives as well. They're little busy bees, though, you know? Thank you, Sam. I really, really appreciate that. And Sam's one of my favorite people on the show, and I'm not just saying that because Sam's here. I think my two main favorites are Sam and Yoli, actually. I mean, everybody, we all like Mal and Lexi. Like, there's certain people that we all like, and Aussie and whatever. But like, I like everybody to some degree. But I really like as soon as Sam was like, I like astrology. I'm like, I like Sam. So anyway, all right, folks. I appreciate all of you. It's time for me to sign off. Stay tuned. I also may do a live over there on the Instagram at some point, maybe tomorrow or the next day. So, all right. If you're interested in that, make sure you follow me on Instagram. Did I say that? I did. Okay. Thank you to Casey for moderating. I appreciate it. We want to make sure that people aren't being too spicy out there, and I appreciate all of you that were very polite and did not attack. All right. Someone tell you how to see lives on IG? Honestly, you can't see them unless they post them. So yeah, you can't see this. I'm actually going to do. I'll probably do little mini videos for everybody, like little mini readings for everybody, and put that up maybe on YouTube. But yeah, lives as it goes for on here. Unfortunately, you can't see it unless I download it, and I probably will download and like put highlights up maybe. But yeah, if you just have to follow me on live, and it'll let you know when I go live on Instagram, so you can check that out. Okay, and on there, I will save it where you can watch it anytime. TikTok doesn't let me do that. So, all right. But thank you, Nicole. I appreciate that. All right. Okay. I love you all, okay? So stay safe, take care of yourselves and each other for that matter. I'll see ya. Cheers.